What happens when Dr. Phil brings cold, hard facts to the view? Let's just say Joy Behar wasn't ready for what came next. This live exchange left the audience stunned, and Whoopi couldn't believe what she was hearing. Stick around because you won't want to miss this explosive moment. The tension on The View was palpable as Dr. Phil McGraw joined the panel to discuss leadership traits, mental health, and, of course, narcissism. As usual, Joy Behar was quick to steer the conversation toward her favorite target, former President Donald Trump.
If you take out everybody that has any of those characteristics, then you're going to take out a lot of people, including some at this table. Is often envious of others or believes that others are envious of him or her, shows arrogant and haughty behavior.
How many people does that?
Do y'all need a minute?
No, that's all right.
No, she's got to ask you this question.
Yeah, I
She's
got to
been
answer this
burning.
question because though they can't diagnose anybody, from afar, somebody they haven't examined, doctors, therapists, a lot of respected psychologists out there, really big-time, big names, are saying that Donald Trump is showing signs of narcissism.
But this time, Dr. Phil wasn't having it. Joy attempted to frame the conversation around whether Trump's behavior aligned with narcissistic traits, listing off a set of characteristics straight from the DSM-5, including grandiosity, entitlement, and a lack of empathy.
Which, by the way, one of the symptoms is preoccupied with the fantasies of unlimited power, success, and brilliance. And they're questioning that he has narcissistic disorder. Number one, do you think that's a mental illness, narcissism? And if so, is he fit to be president?
Well,
as she eagerly checked off the boxes, Dr. Phil calmly interjected with facts that instantly shifted the mood in the room. If you take out everyone who shows any of these traits, Dr. Phil quipped, you're going to eliminate a lot of people, including some at this very table. The room fell silent. Joy's expression was priceless, a mix of shock and disbelief. The audience gasped, clearly recognizing that Dr. Phil's remark was aimed directly at her.
if you take out everybody that has any of those characteristics, then you're going to take out a lot of people, including some at this table.
Whoopi Goldberg tried to defuse the situation, but the damage was already done. Dr. Phil continued, breaking down how leadership often comes with traits that can be misinterpreted as narcissistic. His clinical approach left no room for Joy's usual deflections.
So,
Do y'all need a minute?
no, that's all right.
No, she's got to ask you this question.
Yeah, I
She's
got to
been
answer
burning.
this because though they can't diagnose anybody, from afar, somebody they haven't examined, doctors, therapists, a lot of respected psychologists out there, really big-time, big names, are saying that Donald Trump is showing signs of narcissism, which, by the way, one of the symptoms is preoccupied with the fantasies of unlimited power, success, and brilliance. And they're questioning that he has narcissistic disorder. Number one, do you think that's a mental illness, narcissism? And if so, is he fit to be president?
Well,
Joy doubled down, claiming Trump's behavior was unlike any other leader. But Dr. Phil wasn't buying it. He pointed out that many traits commonly attributed to Trump could easily be found in other leaders throughout history. Left, right, or center. He calmly added, leadership, by its very nature, demands confidence and a certain level of control. You can't lead effectively without it. That doesn't make someone unfit. It makes them human.
Counselor, that's a compound question, and I object. But, people talk about narcissism, but they don't really know what it means. So I brought a list from the DSM-5 about what narcissism really is, because if I asked people to stand up and define it, they wouldn't know.
All right.
And let's just take a vote. One, has a grandiose sense of self-importance.
Check.
Check. Okay.
Next.
Two, is preoccupied with fantasies of success, power, or brilliance, which you said. Check. Okay. Three, believes that he or she is special or unique.
Check.
Can only be understood by special people. Four, requires excessive admiration.
Oh, check.
Has a sense of entitlement, which means is very thin-skinned. If you're
Oh,
entitled,
check.
is interpersonally exploitive.
Oh, yeah.
Lacks empathy, has the inability to stand in other people's shoes.
Joy, visibly flustered, scrambled to regain control of the conversation. But Dr. Phil wasn't done. He reminded the panel and the audience of Trump's lesser-known acts of generosity, including paying off debts for struggling families and making anonymous donations to those in need. Dr. Phil brought up a now-famous story. Trump's limo broke down, and a couple stopped to help. Days later, they received the deed to their home, fully paid off by Trump himself. The audience erupted in applause, leaving Joy speechless.
We go through.
You wouldn't look at President Obama and say he has narcissistic disorder, so you can't just say they all have it.
I didn't
Some
say they
people
all
have all the things you said.
Right.
We just checked every one of them.
I said most leaders, are under a lot of stress and pressure.
Yeah.
So a lot of them will show anxiety, depression at different times. A lot of leaders will have some affliction at different times because of the pressure and demands of the office.
She could talk about this all day, so why don't we...
Let me tell you something about Donald Trump. Let me tell you something about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is one of the most generous people you'll ever meet. He does all kinds of things that people have no idea about. And by the way, if he were selfish, he'd take his money and tell all of us to go F ourselves based upon the way this country has treated him. This guy got shot.
About him
Don't tell me he's selfish.
Are absolute fools.
No,
if
let
they
me
vote
tell
for
you something.
Democrats.
Donald Trump is the only one who moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. He's the only one who got the Abraham Accord.
Why aren't Jews voting for him?
Okay, I'm not
Because
going
he
to
says
fight
we're
with you
fools.
anymore, Jessica. But I know the man, and the facts rely
I can
and
hear
belie
him.
anything you say.
Apparently,
I just want to know if the story is true or not. You were traveling to Atlantic City, and your limo broke down. Husband and wife pulled up behind, and the husband basically said, I'm going to help him out. So he helped out the limousine, and a week later, the husband and wife received the deed to their house paid off. Was that a true story?
It's true. It's true.
It's awesome.
He gave you a check? He gave you a $10,000 check?
Yeah, he ended up, well, after I met him, it was just, so I started walking in the white tent, and they all started clapping, and I felt God's presence in there. I really did, and, you know, and Donald Trump is the most genuine, humble, caring person I've ever met in my life, and I owe everything to him. You know, he did a lot for my dad, who's battling cancer, and I don't ever know how to repay him, but...
what did he do for your dad?
He turned around and said, take care of him, and then he leaned over and said, write him a check for $10,000.
This wasn't just a one-off story, Dr. Phil explained. From helping a farmer save his land to writing checks for families battling illness, Trump's acts of kindness rarely made headlines. But they painted a very different picture from the one Joy and others often portray.
Sometimes I think that he does it because he realizes that he can. He just walks into a politically fraught situation. This has, you know, the politics of abortion, life, healthcare, everything. And he just walks in and says, you know what, I want to help that kid.
For joining us this morning.
Hiya, Dan.
I have heard that you are worth something like $3 billion, but to read your book, The Art of the Deal, you don't care to count exactly how much you're worth, do you?
Well, I don't know what I'm worth. I know that from the standpoint of the book, I've done a book. The charities go to, the money all goes to charity that we're making from the book. The book has become a tremendous success, which I'm happy to say. And it's something that makes a lot of charities very happy, too, because, as I said, the money goes to charity. So I'm very happy about it.
Lacks empathy, has the inability to stand in other people's shoes, is often envious of others or believes that others are envious of him or her, shows arrogant and haughty behavior.
Dr. Phil wrapped up with a powerful message. Look, we can criticize policies and actions all day, but labeling someone with a mental health disorder without proper evaluation is irresponsible. It diminishes the real struggles of people living with these conditions and reduces political discourse to personal attacks. The audience gave him a standing ovation. Joy, meanwhile, sat quietly, perhaps reflecting on the uncomfortable truths she had just heard. What did you think of Dr. Phil's takedown? Was he right to call out Joy Behar, or do you think she had a point? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts.